I solemnly swear that I am up to no good.
Messrs. Mooney, Wormtail, Padfoot and Prongs are proud to present the Marauders map.
We owe them so much.
This is, without question, my favorite scene in the entire Harry Potter universe. In fact, it might be my favorite instance of film scoring ever. Which is weird because this scene basically has no music in it.
What's this rubbish?
What's this rubbish, he says?
That is, until we get right here.
Otherwise anyone can read it.
So, what's happening here? Well, Fred and George Weasley are giving Harry Potter the Marauders map, an enchanted map that allows the user to track everyone in Hogwarts. This map, when not in use, or when handled by somebody who doesn't know how to use it, appears to just be a plain piece of parchment.
What's this?
It's a bad bit of parchment.
Really? Open it.
So the twins show Harry how to use the Marauders map, Harry takes it, and uses it to break into Hogsmeade Village, which I think is basically the wizard equivalent of a field trip, if I'm reading it correctly. And that's it. That's the whole scene. Now, if you want to know what makes this little piece of music so amazing, first we're going to have to get some context as to how these films came together, because honestly, it's kind of a mess. The first film was written by John Williams, and you really get the impression that he was establishing a bunch of themes that he was going to use throughout the rest of the Harry Potter series. So there's a theme for family. There's a theme for mischief. There's a theme for Gryffindor. There's a theme for Voldemort.
Harry Potter.
And, of course, there's Hedwig's theme. And this theme ended up becoming the main theme for the Harry Potter franchise, and that's because it's the only piece of music that made it into every film. So even though Williams stayed on to compose for the second film, while the Chamber of Secrets was in production, he was also working on Star Wars Episode 2, Minority Report, and Catch Me If You Can, all at the same time. 2002 was a busy year for Williams. So being completely overwhelmed, Williams relied on composer William Ross to rearrange themes from the Philosopher's Stone whenever Williams didn't have time to score a scene. And at some point, something went wrong. Either Williams handed the wrong score to the wrong person, or Ross looked at the wrong cube. Something happened because the Quidditch scene in this film is scored with music from Attack of the Clones. Full disclosure, this clip actually comes from Jaime Altozano's video on the subject, where he goes into much greater detail. Links to his video and others in the description below. So if the second film was a little bumpy for Williams, then the third film was a G-force simulator, because the third film saw director Chris Columbus get replaced by Alfonso Cuarón. Now, when you look at Williams' body of work, you'll notice that he is incredibly loyal to the musical themes that he develops, in some cases honoring musical themes that are over 40 years old. So when you look at The Prisoner of Azkaban and see a brand new main theme, and a new theme for Harry's parents, which Williams actually plays while Harry is casting his Patronus, which is pretty cool. But when you look at how basically all the thematic material that he established in the first two films doesn't get used in the third film, you kind of want to point to Cuarón as the culprit. Which is interesting because it was this film that gave us this scene with the Marauders map. But, understandably, this was the last film in the Harry Potter series that Williams composed. The Goblet of Fire went to Patrick Doyle, The Order of the Phoenix and the Half-Blood Prince went to Nicholas Hooper, and Alexander Desplat handled both parts of the Deathly Hallows, which all coincided with all the changing directors and producers and cinematographers and editors. There's actually a really great chart on the Wikipedia page that illustrates how many people the Harry Potter franchise went through. And in case you're still unsure about how that affected the music, there's an entire page just dedicated to listing all the different themes that each composer used in each film. Like I said, it's a mess. It's basically chaos trying to keep track of everything. So what ends up happening is you see a bunch of different perspectives on the Harry Potter mythos. At least to me, the first few films seem to really focus on the mystery element of the story, and then it feels like the middle films have more of an emphasis on the teenage drama aspect of the story, and then the last few films are all about camping and Avengers-level lightsaber duels. Speaking of which, has anybody watched this film recently? Did anyone else notice that when Voldemort dies, he gets Thanos snapped? Oh, I don't feel too good, Mr. Stark. This is just the end of Infinity War. In fact, there are a bunch of weird film predictions in the Harry Potter franchise. Like, they predicted the 2019 Cats.
Look at my face.
Look at your tail.
Might want to tone it down a little there, Ron. But then they also predicted Beauty and the Beast, same actress and everything. Then, let's be clear, they predicted Twilight. And then there's this scene which is so meta, it hurts.
Dragon Balls.
But yeah, anyway, where was I? Oh god, I'm so off track. Right, this scene, yeah, okay. So with so much disarray surrounding the musical continuity of the Harry Potter franchise, what is it that makes this little musical idea, and by extension this scene, so great? Well, listen to this. This is the music that Williams uses to represent mischief. We get it in the first film when Harry releases the snake. We also get it when Neville accidentally flies away on his broom.
Mr. Longbottom.
It comes back in the second film when the Weasleys hook up the car to Harry's window. And I think the best case of hearing this theme is when the three are planning and subsequently executing their Polyjuice potion heist.
Cool.
So this is our mischief theme. And with that in our heads, listen to the musical idea for the Marauders map again. They start in the exact same way. In fact, if you look earlier in this same film when Harry blows up his aunt, you can see a similar emphasis put on repeated notes that also sounds very similar to our mischief leitmotif.
Me tell you.
There's an aspect of mischief built into the fabric of the map. Naturally, this map's entire purpose is to aid in mischievous endeavors. But there's another component to this theme, another half if you will. Listen to this part in the first film when Harry's trying to get to platform 9 3/4.
All right, Percy. You first.
Now listen to what we get during the second film when again, Harry's looking for platform 9 3/4.
10:58. Come on, come on.
Train will be leaving any moment.
Fred, George, Percy, you first.
This is the leitmotif for the Weasleys, which is pretty interesting. Now, if this is the leitmotif for the Weasleys, you'd expect to hear it when we're in the Burrow, right? But I wasn't able to hear it there. But remember, this was the film where Williams was quadruple booked, scoring cinematic masterpieces like this.
I don't like sand. It's coarse and rough and irritating, and it gets everywhere.
Maybe Ross was scoring this scene and just decided to copy and paste music from the first film, or maybe Williams wanted this to be the Weasleys' theme but wasn't able to score the scenes in the Burrow. Either way, this Weasley motif has something called chromatic double neighbors. I'm not going to go into crazy detail about it, but this is where you hear it.
10:58. Come on, come on.
Train will be leaving any moment.
Fred.
And that chromatic double neighbor sound is pretty unique. You don't really hear it that often, except for the very end of the Marauders map. So with that, you basically have the blueprint for the Marauders map leitmotif. It's a device that is intended to be used for mischief that is given to Harry by the Weasleys, who are also mischievous in nature. And this is exactly what Matthew Bribitzer-Stull, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, I'm so sorry, but this is what he said in his book, Understanding the Leitmotif from Wagner to Hollywood Film Music, which, side note, I only recently discovered this book and oh my god, I love it, it is my new Bible. This particular example is on page 291 because this is a fantastic example of something called thematic evolution, which is where one leitmotif, or a piece of music that represents a person, place, or thing in a story, ends up transforming into another. In this case, the leitmotifs for Mischief and the Weasleys merge together and form the leitmotif for the Marauders map. It's a particularly difficult musical technique to pull off in general, let alone in a filmic setting where you don't have complete control over the work, which makes finding instances of thematic evolution particularly rare in cinematic environments. And considering that Williams managed to pull this off with both hands tied behind his back and in the worst of circumstances, really is a testament to how great of a composer he is. But after illustrating that the leitmotif for the Marauders map is a mixture of the Mischief and Weasley's leitmotifs, that's where the book stops, which is unfortunate because there is so much more to the story than just that. See, think about it. Why emphasize the Mischief and the Weasleys. Why doesn't this map help Harry find his way around the castle in a non-mischievous way? What is the significance of Fred and George giving Harry the map instead of someone like McGonagall? She gave him the broom, and she said that she wants to see him go to Hogsmeade.
Since I am neither, it would be inappropriate. I'm sorry, Potter. That's my final word.
Why doesn't this map come from her? Why does this exchange happen in this specific way?
Now, Harry, come and join the big boys.
What are you doing? What's this rubbish?
What's this rubbish, she says? That there is the secret to our success.
Well, Harry is an outsider in this world, in every respect, which honestly makes him a really great protagonist for introducing information to your audience. He can walk around and constantly ask questions and seem completely believable. He has no idea what's going on. But literally everyone around him always knows more about this world than he does. Even other people from the Muggle world know more about the Wizarding world and even his own life than he does.
I'm telling you, it's spooky. She knows more about you than you do.
Who doesn't?
Even a magical cloak that is like technically a gift from death or something is just another magical thing that people in this world know about because there's actually more than one of them or something. I don't know. The invisibility cloak between the first and last films kind of confused me. But constantly being in the dark probably made Harry feel excluded, like maybe he didn't actually belong in this magical world. I imagine that at times he had a serious inferiority complex. That was until he got this map. A map that no one had heard of, that not even the professors know how to use. This map gave Harry an edge in the Wizarding world. It gave him a place where he could finally feel like he was in the know and had an advantage over his classmates. The emphasis on mischief directly relates to Harry's participation in this foreign world, and being given the power to participate in it without a tacit disadvantage would have most likely given him a greater sense of belonging. Ron already knew about magic candy, Hermione already knew how to fix broken glasses, and Malfoy probably already had experience flying on a broom, and Harry had none of that until this moment. But what's more is look at who's giving him the map. Here's a question for you. Why do Fred and George give Harry the map? This is an incredibly powerful tool that they could have, without question, used to terrorize the school.
That there is the secret to our success.
They had to steal it from Filch's office and risk punishment for just having it in their possession. So why do they decide to hand it over to Harry? Well, Harry doesn't really have a family. He has one, technically, but they're either dead or they keep him in a closet under the stairs. The Weasleys are the closest he has to a family experience. They are his surrogate family both personally and within the Wizarding world. Mrs. Weasley knits him a sweater.
What are you wearing?
Oh, Mum made it. Looks like you got one too.
I've got presents.
They teach him how to use flue powder. We even see Mr. Weasley try to warn Harry at the beginning of this film. In many ways, the Weasleys are his home away from home. And here we see Fred and George acting out of guardianship for Harry.
That there is the secret to our success.
It's a wrench giving it to you, believe me.
But we've decided your needs are greater than ours.
In this moment, Harry suddenly has two big brothers. They see him missing out on going to Hogsmeade and, knowing about everything that Harry's been through, want to see him have as much of a normal wizarding childhood as he can. They stick their necks out just so that they can see Harry have a good time. So handing over the Marauders map is a profound moment of acceptance for Harry. Harry now has concrete proof that the twins have his back, something that I'm sure that he hadn't experienced much, if at all, in his life. And these two super emotionally charged aspects of this scene are the only things present in the musical construction of the leitmotif for the Marauders map. The power to commit mischief in a world in which he can now navigate and a familial bond with his wizarding family. But there's more. See, this isn't the only time we hear this musical idea. We hear it again when Harry's looking at the map and sees Peter Pettigrew.
Peter Pettigrew?
Little lump of a boy, always trailing after Sirius Black.
But more surprisingly, we hear it in the Shrieking Shack. Which, when you think about it, actually makes a lot of sense. The map was authored by Moony, Wormtail, Padfoot, and Prongs, or in other words, the three people in this room, screaming at each other about the fourth who's dead. So in a way, you can see the Marauders map theme also encompassing its authors.
Messrs. Moony, Wormtail, Padfoot, and Prongs are proud to present the Marauders map.
We owe them so much.
In fact, you can see this whole altercation musically foreshadowed when we, the audience, are introduced to the Shrieking Shack.
It's meant to be the most haunted building in Britain. Did I mention that?
The idea of this leitmotif representing both the map and its authors is further reinforced when you hear it during this scene in the night, which adds an extra layer to the construction of this musical idea. It was made by stitching the Mischief and Weasley leitmotifs together, which, in a way, is a great way to describe the four authors. In a sense, you could describe them as a family of mischief makers, a family that is mischievous. What's more is that one of the authors was Harry's father, James. In a sense, you could argue that just having the map would make Harry feel closer to the father that he never knew. Depending on how you look at it, this is technically a family heirloom. In the process of just having the map in his possession, Harry inevitably learns more about his father. At the same time, there's a parallel you can draw between Harry and his father when he uses the map. Harry uses the map to be mischievous with his friends the same way his father did with his. In just using the map with his friends, as his father did before him, it would serve to ground and validate Harry's existence in this otherwise alien world. So, to recap, the musical idea that represents the Marauders map actually comes from the musical ideas, or leitmotifs, for Mischief and the Weasleys, which makes sense because this is a map that the Weasleys give Harry to commit mischief, except that this musical idea, through its usage, also draws the attention of the authors of the map, one of whom is Harry's father, in turn transforming this map into both a family heirloom and as a way to get to know his father a little bit better, and that he can now have a more similar experience to what his father had while he was at Hogwarts. But all of that is nothing compared to my favorite aspect of this little musical line, and by extension, the Marauders map, and the scene where Harry gets it. It completely justifies all of the thematic construction and everything that Williams went through in order to get here. My absolute favorite part of this little leitmotif is that this scene when Harry gets the Marauders map isn't actually the first time we hear it. We hear it right here for Sirius Black.
You know who, returning to power. And that is why he has escaped from Azkaban.
But hold on, if this is the musical idea that's supposed to represent Black, then why would you also play it for the Marauders map? Sure, you could say it's because he's one of the authors, just like we saw with Peter Pettigrew, but at the same time, in a poetic, foreshadowing kind of way, this map guides Harry back to his family. Without it, he never would have discovered that Sirius was his godfather. Literally, he uses the map to go to Hogsmeade, and that's where he hears that Sirius is his godfather. And again, it's what gets him to the Shrieking Shack.
Where do you suppose this goes?
I have a hunch.
Think about it. How does Harry have a hunch that he knows where this underground path leads to unless he's been studying the map? The map takes Harry to Sirius Black, to his godfather, to some form of family. But to bring this all together, Williams actually gives Black his own musical idea. Listen to this little figure we hear right before we hear the map's leitmotif in this scene.
In the way of you know who, returning to...
That little musical idea keeps coming back for Sirius Black.
Who's to say he won't do it again?
That's right. Black could be anywhere.
But that little musical motif also contains those chromatic double neighbors, just like the Weasley idea.
In the way of you know who, returning to...
Which not only musically draws Sirius Black toward the Marauders map and the other authors, but also through how we see this leitmotif get used throughout the film, we can see that this musical connection also creates a familial bond between Sirius Black and Harry. So as much as it connects Harry to the past and his father's life, it also connects him to the future and the potential for a life with his godfather. Metaphorically speaking, the map lays out a path to reconnect Harry with a family that he never knew in past, present, and future. So, just to reiterate, this map is a map designed for Mischief, which Williams articulates by deriving the first half of its leitmotif from the Mischief leitmotif that he used in previous films. And the capacity for Mischief validates Harry within the wizarding world in a way that he hadn't experienced until this moment. Harry received this map from the Weasley twins, which Williams articulates by deriving the second half of the Marauders map's leitmotif from the Weasley leitmotif that he presented in the first two films, which draws attention to how this gesture brings Harry into the trust of the Weasley family while also helping Harry to pursue a normal wizarding life. The map was authored by 4 former students, which Williams draws attention to by using this leitmotif when we see those authors come together, in effect normalizing and grounding the relationship that Harry has with his friends through similar use of the map and general misconduct. At the same time, one of those 4 authors just so happens to be Harry's father, in turn making this map a kind of family heirloom that, through general shenanigans, draws Harry even closer to a father that he didn't know. And while all of that is happening, Williams gives Sirius Black his own motif that sits perfectly within this matrix of musical ideas that tells us exactly who and what he is. There is a shocking amount of depth and just so many layers to this little musical idea. And I get it, at first it seems almost mundane, as if the twins just handed Harry a magical piece of paper and it solves all his problems. But upon closer inspection, this is a profound moment in the story of Harry Potter, and personally, it's my favorite. But moreover, for every nuance and every twist and turn that this map and this moment represents, Williams found a way to represent it in the music, either in the construction of the musical idea that represented the map, or in how he used that musical idea throughout the film. In a way, you could say that through its construction and usage, the music shows the audience all the nuanced ways in which this moment affected Harry's life. You might even say that the music guided us, like a map.
Mischief managed.
Thanks for watching. I'd like to thank my patrons for making these videos possible. A very special thank you to Alec Kulikowski, Clara Tan, DJ Now Ananda, Hayden Elza, Jordan Adams, Karen Rosenau, Kate J, Myron John Tatarin, Noah Gray, Preylock, Rafael Martinez Salas, and Who Am I? I'd also like to thank everybody for requesting that I talk about Harry Potter. It has been a long time coming. If you like what you saw here, be sure to check out my other videos, like, comment, subscribe, check out my Twitter and Twitch to have your musical questions answered live, and if you really like what I'm doing, consider supporting the channel on Patreon. But that's all I got for now. Thanks for watching.